Brad Panovich with what the shift means for Charlotte. Brad.
Yeah, the big story with that shift yesterday and overnight means we're in the threat for heavier rain across our entire area. Now, a little bit of good news, and there is some good news to pass along to you. The storm is weaker. It is still a Category 3 storm, but it is not going to make Category 4 strength again. That's the good news. Now, it's going to approach the coast and encounter some cooler water and some wind shear, which is going to start tearing it up a little bit. So we actually expect the winds to either level off or they might actually go down a little bit. But the problem is it's going to stall here. So just think of a Category 3 hurricane sitting just offshore for about 24 to 36 hours. These areas will be pummeled with storm surge, waves, wind, and rain. It will weaken dramatically, which helps us out because it reduces our wind threat. But unfortunately, the slow movement to our south through Columbia, then up through the western part of North Carolina, puts all of our area in that eastern or right side of the storm, which means we're potentially going to see 7 to 10 inches of rain on top of the threat for some isolated tornadoes. You can see the eye is not as clear as earlier. That's an indication that the storm has weakened just a bit. It's still a monster storm. Don't let your guard down. This doesn't mean that it's going to not cause any damage just because it dropped from a 4 to a 3. It's still a major hurricane that's going to be heading towards the Carolinas. For the Charlotte area, the biggest impact for us is right here. Flash flooding for everybody. Power lines coming down because of trees. Now, the trees aren't coming down because of just wind. They're coming down because the ground gets saturated and the wind is going to push those trees over. Even light winds, 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. The damaging winds themselves aren't really that big of a deal. Tornado threat is something that will be a day-to-day threat that could go up or down based on the pattern that we're seeing. Now, just to show you that the winds aren't going to be that big of a deal for us, they're a bigger deal to our south and east. For us, we're only in the 10 to 20, maybe 30 mile per hour winds. I think the highest gust we could see would be around 35. We can handle that if it wasn't for the heavy rain, which is going to be falling on top of this area. You notice how things weakened by Tuesday, but the rain could still be around. And speaking of the rain, this is my biggest concern, and it should be yours as well. 7 to 10 inches of rain. We're talking mudslides, river flooding, flash flooding, or any kind of flooding could occur with these bands of heavy rain as we go through the upcoming weekend. Coming up, I'm going to show you some of the possible totals we could see across the area in that full forecast, Fred.
Okay, Brad, thank you. Florence has forced millions out of their homes with mandatory evacuation orders in place along the coast. We've seen a lot of traffic all across the area in the last 24 hours as people drive inland, and a lot of people coming here to the Queen City to seek shelter.